When people are released from jail, they have the responsibility to appear in court. But some of these people choose to go on the run.
They go back home to mommy.
And that is when these guys come into the picture. So sit back and listen to the Off the Hook podcast with Chad and Rob.
Very fine people on both sides.
These are real stories, but the names have been changed.
Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Rob.
I'm Chad, and we're having a special guest today and a little bit of trouble with audio, but we got it worked out.
I think so. I hope so. Anyway.
Yeah.
Oh man. So the reason why you see Chad sitting so close to me, because we're trying to share the video here to where Mr. Price is joining us today.
Yep.
And hang on, let me do something for Mr. Price. Hang on, let's see where it's at. There we go, Mr. Price. Yes. All right, so let me tell you a little bit about Mr. Price. Mr. Price has been in the business for a while. You hear me? Like I think almost longer than I've been alive. I was like a little boy when he started. So, and he's down in Mobile, Alabama. Yay. And he's going to join us today, and he's going to tell us a little bit about his background, what he's done, what he does, and maybe a wild story or something.
Yep, that'd be cool. I'm sure he's got them.
So, I present to you, I'm going to put it on the screen for you to see it, Mr. Alex Price.
A.K.A. Skip Guru.
What's going on, Alex?
You guys doing today?
You know, same old.
Doing good. We're doing good.
All right, so how's Mobile, Alabama treating you?
Mobile is great. This is that sweet spot of the year where you wake up and it's 51 and it gets into the mid to high 70s during the day. So it's that reason why you live on the Gulf Coast.
So you get that short-lived spring before summer.
We're getting probably the same thing, but maybe a couple degrees lower. But it's about the same. Right. The same here.
Right.
Yeah, you give it another month and a half, and it's going to be hotter than Satan's doorknob.
Yeah. I'll be down there in Gulf Shores next month for a few days, and I'm sure it's going to start getting toasty.
Yeah, you're about an hour away from me there in Gulf Shores. We go over there all the time to go to Lulu's and a few other spots.
Yeah, we're going to a music festival out there, so
okay,
it's going to be fun. A little time off. So, Mr. Price, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, so can you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself, what your history is?
Sure. One thing I would like to say, you didn't have to put so much emphasis on
that was
long time.
Sorry. Well, you know, I mean, it's a compliment. It's a compliment.
I do take it as such. This is my 40th year as a professional skip tracer, and most people that do skip tracing, they just do it as a function within their day. It's not what they do for 8, 10, whatever hours. I'm different. I'm one of the few out there that this is it. This is all I've ever done. I haven't done accounting or payroll or any of that stuff. Even when I owned my skip company, I had folks that did all that.
Right.
You know, I've done nothing but hunt humans for a variety of different sources or reasons for 40 years. Everything from the fintech world to locate collateral to the bail world, everything in between. And that's one thing when I teach, I very rarely ask the room what they do, because skip tracing doesn't change as you go industry to industry. The only thing that changes is what that industry considers a success. The auto recovery world, the success to them is bringing metal back to the yard.
Mm-hmm.
A bondsman is bringing flesh back to the jail, etc. You know,
yep.
In the collections world, it's collected debt. So everybody has to start. Even if you think of, if you're on a high school reunion committee, everything has to start with finding the human that has some sort of contractual obligation, and that's where I come in.
Okay. Well, I've noticed like in our world, I've noticed other companies like towing companies. Towing companies use like you guys and to locate vehicles and but yeah, I've noticed that. So yeah, I'm glad you explained that. So all right, so you've been teaching for how long?
Gosh, in one way or the other, I've been teaching for probably the past 20 years, but over a little more than a decade is when it really, really took off. And I spent well over a decade traveling 250 days a year, coast to coast, to every entity you could think of, major lenders out there, trade shows, etc. You know, I probably traveled as much as a country music band or what have you over the years. As of late, I've scaled the travel back quite a bit because of the Zoom world. I had a Zoom class last month and had, you know, close to a webinar, close to 2,800 attendees. So with technology, I don't have to do all the traveling. And now at 63, if I'm gone for 4 days, it takes me 3 days just to knock that road rash off to where I feel normal again.
We understand that.
Yeah.
We understand that. It's tough.
I'd much rather be here in my office, shorts, flip flops, a dress shirt with Penelope Garcia, my basset hound, laying beside me than in airplanes and hotels.
I agree 100%. So, all right, Alex, were you ever into the bounty hunting and fugitive recovery portion of it?
Did a lot of it in my youth. Just like, you know, I repoed cars back in the day. Now I'm more of I transitioned from the field because I like sleep. I was never a big fan of the field. I kind of transitioned to the guy in the shadows that just told the people in the field where to go. But my first ever experience in the bond world was I was a bouncer at a country and western bar down in South Florida, and it was a rough little
honky tonk.
It made Roadhouse look like Bambi.
Oh, right.
You didn't have your own knife and gun, we'd give you one.
Just to make it fair.
I was working the front door one night, you know, checking IDs and getting the cover charge, and this guy came in and he said he was a bail bondsman, and I didn't even know what that meant. And he showed me a picture of a young lady he was looking for and wanted to know if he could come in the bar and just show the picture around. And I said, hey, you might not want to do that because, you know, this is a local club and you show that picture to the wrong person and that's a cousin or a girlfriend or whatever, you might get beat up. Well, what I didn't tell him was the second he showed me the picture, it was an ex-girlfriend of mine.
Yeah.
and not only did I know where she was in the club that night. So he said, hey, there's any info leading to me picking her up. I think it was a $1,500 bounty or price, whatever you want to call it back then. And I said, well, I'll pass the picture around. He gave me a business card, and I waited like 2 days and called him and told him where she was, and he gave me $1,500. Now back then I was working $100 a night under the table, so $1,500.
Oh yeah,
80's a ton of money.
Yeah, there's something to this.
And I'm like, this is the coolest thing in the world. Well, at the same time, I had gotten out of the Army, and my dad told me I had to get civilized because what I did in the Army, there really wasn't any good transition to a civilian job. So he got me a job at the bank, and I had a knack for out in the field finding people that the people in the office couldn't. So they kind of came in at the same time, and I called that bondsman, and I went down to his office and started looking at all the files he was looking for. And growing up in Palm Beach County, being a beach bum myself.
You probably knew half of them.
I did. It was like, oh, well, this guy right here, every Friday night, he's going to be down at Bob's Billiards, and this and that. And it was like 2 months in, I'd made 10 grand from this cat. And I'm like, okay, I think I have found my calling.
Right.
And that kind of, led the path to me leaving the corporate world, starting my own skip company. And
All right.
it,
So
it's been an interesting life.
Yeah, sounds like it.
getting into the nitty gritty now. All right. What is the one story that comes to your head that you'll never forget of a capture?
Okay. Before I answer that, let me go back to you introduced me as Skip Guru, so everybody doesn't think I'm like an evil Marvel villain. The best nicknames are ones that people give to you, that you don't make it up yourself.
Right.
And I'm teaching in Fort Worth, Texas, at a fintech organization. And the guy that introduced me was British, but he was of Indian descent, but he was from England. And when he introduced me, he said, I have the Skip Guru, because guru just means teacher in his world. And by the end of that conference, everybody was just calling me Skip. And fast forward years later, I was building my own website and trying to think of a name for it. And my wife said, why don't you use what that guy called you at that convention? And I said, Skip Guru. And she said, yeah, everybody will remember that. Boom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, that was 15, 18 years ago. So that's how I got that name. But I actually think of two, and neither one of them, when I've told these on podcasts before, everybody's like, it's a swerve, because everybody wants the happy ending. Like, I went down this huge maze and, caught the guy. Both of stories that will never leave my head till the day I die, and they're not long, did not end with me getting the capture on either one of them.
Oh, really?
And one of them changed the name. The guy's name was, let's say, Richard. He had two first names.
Ricky Bobby.
Yeah.
Which is very common in the gypsy culture and some other cultures for the names to kind of go together. So in this case, this guy had gotten a Mitsubishi 3000.
Oh, yeah.
I remember those.
Yeah.
The sports car.
Back in the day, it was probably one of the larger balanced cars out there. It was like a $45,000-$50,000 car. And he was in Clearwater, Florida, and this guy was running a scam, and he was a genius. He was running a modeling school for young girls scam, and he had pictures of him. This is before computers. Pictures of him with stars, models, so forth. He had used just a regular printer and cutting and so forth, and made this stuff look real. And he was bilking moms out of money that their daughter was going to be the next, big thing, etc. And he had convinced the mayor to invest 50 grand into some leather, because he was going to start a leather shop. So he then took that $50,000 worth of leather, the Mitsubishi 3000, and a whole bunch of other stuff, went and had a custom crate for $800 built, and put all of it in that crate and shipped it from Mexico to Greece. Now, Greece does not have the same laws that we do, so the title meant nothing. The way they worked it back then is, once I found him, you talked to the local policeman and you paid him a fee to get the car. And if the other party could give him a fee bigger than you gave him, they kept the car. So it was about as close to a bribe as you can get. And in the interim, this is months of me tracking this cat from Clearwater Beach, Florida, to California, to the crate being built, to everything going to Greece. And in the meantime, this guy would send me pictures of him in Greece, laying on the hood, giving me the "you're number one" sign with a note, ha ha. Then I'd get a Christmas card from him. Because this went on for months, tracking this guy down. And just as I found him, had some people that were going to come in from Germany. They were going to get the car. They were going to get the car onto a barge and get it 7 miles out before anybody was aware. And we had the thing all set up, and the guy wrecked it and totaled it.
Ah.
So, just days before we were going to do that. And then the other one, the guy's name, we'll just say his name was Ricky Bobby. And he had the most common name you could think of. And this was down in Miami, Florida. And I'm looking all over for this guy. And I found out, because back then, this is where you used human intel, because there weren't any computers, no fax machines. I think this was right about the time I had a pager, and that was it. You talk to people in the local barber shops, this and that, and I found out he had a big monkey on his back for horse racing, but not Kentucky Derby style, like where they the harness tracks where you sit in the buggy.
Yep.
A little whip, and there was Flagler Racetrack was the only one that would have that down there. And I would go by Flagler Racetrack 2 or 3 times a day looking for him, and I finally got him one day, and Ricky Bobby should not have been his name, because there was about 5 or 6 guys leaning up against a car, all with dreadlocks down to their waist, looked like a Cheech and Chong movie. And this was another repossession deal, and I walked up to the car and had the key, and they were like, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm here to get the car." And they said, "No, that's Pinky's car." And I said, "No, it's the bank's car, and I'm here to get it." And they're going back and forth with me. And about that time, big old land yacht, big Impala, back when they were solid steel, and you could fit 20 people in the trunk.
Yeah.
Pull up, and this little bitty guy gets out. And he's like, "What are you doing, Mom?" And I'm like, "I'm here to get the car." He said, "That's Pinky's car. You can't have it." I said, "No, it's the bank's car. We can do this the easy way or the hard way. It's up to you." Now, I had just gotten out of the Army. I was into bodybuilding. I was on special medication that helped me be a lot bigger and stronger than I would have been otherwise, let's say.
Vitamin T.
Put it this way: if when I got the job at Toyota, they didn't know if they were hiring a human or a horse when the blood work came back for the drug testing. But it was all legal back then.
Right.
So I put my hand on the guy's shoulder to move him away from the car, and I got a little machine gun, a Mac 10 pistol put on my forehead, and he said, "I told you can't have the car. Pinky's car." And about then, this other side of the door opened up, and this girl got out of the car. She got out of the car. She got out of the car. She got out of the car. One of the biggest human beings I ever seen in my life. How this lady fit into a Toyota Tercel. And that really tells you how far I go back.
Yeah.
Good God.
I'll never know. And I looked at him and I just said, "You know what, sir, you're right. That is Pinky's car. And just in case she later loses her keys, here's you an extra one you can have." And I slowly backed my big butt out of that scenario. And I don't think anybody ever talked to him ever again. And it was about 2 weeks later, the front page of the newspaper, that guy was the head of the Jamaican posse there in that area. And he was killed in a shootout.
Wow.
And I've had that. Being down in South Florida, I used to go collect money from 2 guys that ended up being in a shootout with the FBI downtown Miami, that they made movies and documentaries about the cocaine cowboys.
Right.
I know several of those guys, they would go back and forth to Colombia, like we go to the grocery store, And every 3 months, I'd find out they were in town. I'd go by their house. They'd give me $4 or $5 grand worth of payments, and they'd disappear for 6 months. Again.
This must be the 80s you're talking about.
Late 80s, early 90s.
But okay.
Especially when the posses moved in, they even scared the Colombians or anybody else because they were different. Everything they did was like what MS-13 kind of now. They did it publicly, broad daylight, because it was to instill fear.
What's your biggest asset recovery?
Biggest as in monetary value?
Yes.
A small dealership that had a floor plan that was over $500,000, and the dealership closed overnight and disappeared with all the cars.
Wow.
I had to find those cars one by one. And in that particular case, the deal was I got 30% of whatever the car sold for at the auction. So I made real good money on some of the cars, and other cars, not so much because they had been trashed or what have you.
Okay.
I worked a couple bounties that paid real good money back. And the industry has changed much like the auto financial world. Back when a bounty hunter got a true 10% of whatever the bounty was.
Well, now I'm here to tell you, we don't charge no less than that. It ain't worth it in a lot of cases.
I agree. I talk to a lot of these young guys that are like, yeah, I just charge $250 or $300, and I get a lot of volume that way. And I'm like,
no,
you gonna run yourself ragged.
Well, not only that, but we just had a fugitive recovery agent in Georgia, ambushed with an AK-47.
I heard about that. Yeah, I saw that on Facebook.
Yeah, in the past 48 hours.
Yeah.
When I was young, you might bring a bat to the door.
Yeah.
That was about it. And and when the fight broke out, you usually dropped the bat.
Right.
It's a different world, and you have such a big section of the population that has no respect whatsoever for human life. That's why I'm really happy to be in the shadows again, because of like what just happened. There was like 14 repossession agents last year killed over a car.
Mm-hmm.
So
I much rather go get people than cars. I've done a few cars. I don't like it.
It's much easier with people because, and the worst thing to work is motorcycles.
Yep.
Because they can pull them into the bedroom.
Yeah.
Or part them out, and all you got is a frame, and then whoever the lien holder is doesn't want to pay you because all there is a frame with a VIN on it. So motorcycles was what I hated the worst when I'd get them. I liked the bounty hunting. That was probably the most enjoyable because finding a person is the easiest part of the job. If you're not getting paid until the car's repossessed or the person's served or someone collects money, there's too many variables there.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, all right.
Let me find the money. You write me a check. I'm done.
What about in the bounty world? What was there any stories in particular that you can tell us that might be the most memorable or popular stories of people maybe, or that you can tell us?
Yeah, there's been so many that are
like when Dog found Andrew Luster. Were you any part of anything like that, or?
No, but I have been, without naming names, I have been involved in many cases of celebrities, the athletes, etc. Mercury Morris, back when he got caught with all the cocaine, I can say him now because he's deceased. But yeah, I've worked a lot of celebrities and athletes and so forth over the years because one thing that you have to remember, and I don't think you can be successful in this career without two things, and that's one is empathy, and the other is being non-judgmental. Because there's an old quote people think's part of scripture, but it's not. It was a quote by a guy by the name of John Bradford, somewhere in the 1500s to 1550s. There for the grace of God go I. And there's not one of us that isn't one or two bad decisions away from being in the same boat as some of the people we hunt. Not all.
Yeah.
True.
So,
Right.
and we're seeing, and it's real easy in this world to get jaded where you think everybody is on the prowl or scamming or lying. And really, it's someone's made a bad choice and then they compounded the bad choice with another bad choice because fight or flight kicked in and they, thank God, choose flight.
Right.
Well, there wouldn't be a need for guys like us.
So how?
It's
So
a good way to look at it.
I know you would locate smarter.
Yes.
Okay, so we only got about 6 more minutes left here. So I just want to have you kind of tell our audience a little bit about that, and we'll kind of go from there.
Well, when I transitioned, I had my own skip company, and I tried to retire twice. And both times, I made it as far as to go on LinkedIn and take my skip company off and put TBA, and within 2 hours, a buddy of mine who owned a big data company called me, and I was retired for about 8 hours. And then he sold his company to Motorola, and I parachuted out and was going to retire again. And these guys at Locate Smarter reached out to me, and I've known their president for probably 25 years or so. And I really dug the name, and you could put Skip Guru with Locate Smarter. My head just started churning with the fun I could have with it, with blogs or what have you. And then I looked at their data because I wouldn't attach my name to anything that didn't work.
Right.
And I think they have some of the best data in the industry, period. They've definitely got some of the best matching logic that I've seen in a long time. And matching logic is, attaching the right info for Robert Allen to that Robert Allen, not 50 others.
Gotcha.
And they've also allowed me to be me and help their dev team create new products, because when you talk about all the other data companies, none of those cats have ever found a fugitive, repoed a car. So I have a different take on it. So they've allowed me to help with their dev team to create new products, which has been just a blast. So at 63, I kind of reinvented myself in the data world and teaching, and I'm just having a blast.
Well, I tell you what,
shorts, flip flops, and a polo shirt.
I like
for
that.
you.
That's something to look forward to for myself.
Yeah, good for you.
Alex, I thank you for coming on, man. This has been awesome. Thank you for coming up and talking to us.
Appreciate your time.
Our audience appreciates you. Thank you for what you do.
Thank you. If anybody would like to be included in my email list for future classes, because I never charge for my classes, but my webinars, and I won't. Both my kids were smart enough to not follow in my footsteps. So 30 years or 40 years worth of stuff I've collected, learned, etc. If I don't pass it down, it dies with me. So that's why I don't charge for the webinars.
Very cool.
If anybody in your audience would like to be included in my email list of future classes, they can shoot me an email at alex.price@locatesmarter.com, and the next group of classes I do next month, they'll get an invite to them.
All right.
Very cool.
I'm humbled that you guys asked me to be on your podcast. I've been watching it for a while, and you can tell when somebody digs and is just having fun.
Yeah.
And that kind of passion is what attracts me to people. And you can tell y'all are just having a blast doing this stuff.
Yeah, it's been.
I'm humbled to even be considered sharing
No,
the
we
screen.
really appreciate that.
Yes,
That's nice.
it's been fun. I appreciate you being a fan and joining us today. It's been awesome. And Chad, we've been looking forward to this day. So we've been talking about it for a while.
Yep, glad we got up with you.
Y'all ever want me on, you just let me know. You know what would be cool is to do a live one at Peebus.
Oh, yeah.
Just grab people like Topo or
Topo
or somebody, and just catch them off guard.
That's a good idea. I mean,
we ain't seen him in a couple of years. I mean, we need to. So
yeah, we did Michelle's function down in Florida. We're going to go to Montana, I believe. We're going to go to that next. I would like to go to Peebus event though.
Yeah, do it. Even if it was in, because Michelle, her thing is growing. It's really catching on, especially now that she is doing some on-site meetings. Before it was just a big Facebook group. She's really getting some tremendous traction and doing a lot of good for the industry.
Yeah.
Even one at her event, just doing it live and snatching somebody walking.
We
by
did.
Yeah.
You can go back in our videos. You can go back in our videos. You'll see we did one at Florida.
And we snatched everybody.
Yeah, we actually had Mark Wahlberg's brother, Jim Wahlberg. He was a speaker.
Okay.
And he sat down for a minute with us, and he has an interesting story to tell. Yeah.
Alex, I appreciate it, buddy. Again, thank you again from us at Off the Hook. Thank you very much. And everybody at home, y'all know he gave you the information. Get up with him. Get up with him if you want to take his webinar class. It's pretty cool. I'd suggest it.
Yep.
So until then, Alex, appreciate it, buddy. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, sir.
Everybody be blessed, be safe, and happy hunting.
Thank you,
Right
sir.
on.
You have a good one. All right, let's see. Let me exit out of this and bam. Okay, cool. Man,
So that's a wrap.
That was awesome, man. We're good now.
All right.
Yeah, we're good now. So all right, so guys, man, it's been I have got my phone blowing up. I think that might be Alex right there. Anyway, so man, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, he's a cool guy. He's got a lot of. I'm sure we could do another podcast with him.
Oh
'cause
man,
he's
we
got a lot of stories.
We got tons of stories.
Yeah. So-
Let me get out of this. Got to get my stuff back right here.
Right. So.
Chad, we got to do that again, man.
Yep.
Do it again. Well, guys, that's it for today's show.
Hope you liked it. Hope that give us some ideas. Some input. And we'll reach out to these people and have some more interesting guests like that and more stories to come.
All right, guys. Well, that's it for today. Like I said, I'm Rob.
I'm Chad.
And we'll see you next time.
Peace.
You've been listening to Off the Hook with Chad and Rob. We hope you've enjoyed the show. Make sure to like, rate, and review. And be sure to follow us for notifications for another exciting episode. But in the meantime, you can go to our website at www.offthehookbail.com to see more. So until next time, stay out of trouble, or it'll be you that needs to get off the hook. See you soon.